This is your First Alert Weather Breakdown, a deep dive into how weather works with meteorologist CJ Cartledge.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the KSLA First Alert Weather Breakdown for today. I'm meteorologist CJ Cartledge here. Happy Wednesday. Also, we made it through half of the week so far. We got another half of the week left to go, and I hope you guys once again are having a great start to your Wednesday. Temperatures are mainly in the 50s and 60s across the region. Definitely comfortable for this time of year, and we are expecting low humidity but high temperatures heading into the afternoon for today. But we have a pretty interesting topic for you for today, and it's going to be a pretty quick episode because we have something streaming right after the KSLA First Alert Weather Breakdown for today. What's your craziest weather experience that you've lived through inside or outside of the Arklatex? I know for many that have lived in the South, you've probably seen some crazy things like tornadoes and different hurricanes and not so much of snowstorms. I was thinking it in my head, but maybe not so much of snowstorms. You may have seen a snowstorm or two, but probably not so much down here in the southern portions of the United States here. But I could expect you've seen some crazy things out here, from regular thunderstorms to different things that you may have seen out here in the southeastern United States, especially for Louisiana and Texas and areas around Louisiana as well. So, last night I asked people on my Facebook account as well as my Instagram account of what's the craziest weather experience that you've seen or experienced out there in your entire life. And I've gotten a few responses here on Facebook as well as Instagram, so we're just going to go through a couple of those responses here live on the KSLA First Alert Weather Breakdown, and we're going to wrap up the episode after that. So let's dive into the first one here. The first one is from Steve Jones. Thank you so much for commenting for today or last night here. And he says that when I was in high school in Dallas around 1999, I remember seeing golf ball size hail when we got home. We had to wait in my grandmother's car until it stopped, plus the bad wind from storms in June of 2023. Now, that golf ball size hail is definitely a dangerous thing to experience in general. Just a couple of weeks ago, I believe around a week and a half ago, we had a storm here, a pop-up storm here around the Shreveport and Bossier area. Literally came out of nowhere and started dropping hail the size of quarters out of the sky. And even I was like, I'm not going outside during this, let alone golf ball size hail is what it said before there in the comment. Golf balls are just a little bit larger. It's close to 2 inches in diameter, I believe, or maybe just a little bit higher than that or longer than that in diameter. But it's definitely something to be scared of for sure. You don't want to get hit by a golf ball, let alone ice that's the size of golf balls out there. So definitely definitely a crazy weather experience for sure. And as well as the windstorm or the derechos that happened in June of 2023. Fun fact, that actually happened either the week that I started here at KSLA or the week after. But that was my welcome to the Arklatex moment for sure. Those storms in June of 2023 had knocked out power for most of the areas around Shreveport and Bossier, I believe Caddo, Bossier Parish, and around the Arklatex as well, as that derecho moved through from west to east. I believe we were still in our severe weather season or at the very end of it by that time frame, and I have recorded multiple videos from that exact moment here, so I still have them on my phone from that exact day. But yes, it was definitely my welcome to the Arklatex moment, and I will never forget it. I would never forget it because I was sitting in my apartment and I was just looking at how fast the winds were blowing at the time, and I was just like, I've barely ever seen this before. Coming from Maryland and in the northeastern United States, you don't see severe storms like that very often. But once I came down here to the South, I realized how fast the winds could move out there, and I realized how bad storms could really get out there around the Arklatex. So let's move on to the next comment. This next person has a really long story here. This is from Rebecca Osborne Witt. Thank you, guys. Thank you for so much for sharing your story here. She says, in 1995, in my hometown in West Texas, Friona, not a cloud in the sky. The weatherman broke in and said, Friona will see hail in about 15 minutes. Living in a mobile home, I thought I'm going to my parents, and she said, so I loaded up with my daughter load up the car, I'm guessing, and we went 2 blocks to their house, to the parents' house. A few minutes after I got there, my dad said there was no air coming out of the air conditioner. We looked outside, and the clouds were swirling. That's definitely a sign right there. We decided to go down the street to a friend's basement. Good thinking right there. We loaded up and I backed out of the driveway and I said, "Oh my goodness!" And there it was. The day I looked an EF4 tornado in the face. EF4. I backed up and parked and we ran back to the house. My dad locked the door and he was shaking so bad he couldn't get the key in the lock. I said I'm about to break a window. Debris was hitting my mom. We got in and we got in the closet and we're praying hard. My mom had a little chihuahua named Skeeter. I remember her saying, "Y'all stop smothering Skeeter." LOL. It calmed down, we jumped back in the truck to go check on my grandparents. The roads were blocked and they were not going to let us through. My dad came out of the truck window and his coworkers and me and my husband was holding him by the legs. They said, "Go on through." My grandparents' house had been hit along with my aunts and uncles. His high profiles was destroyed, homes damaged, the cemetery and airport took a bad hit. The panhandle got hit hard that day with several tornadoes. The sound to me was like a big vacuum. That's all I remember hearing. I had already lost a home in '89 from a tornado, and in '97, I moved to the Arklatex. The storms here are horrible, and my storm anxiety is through the roof. I really can't stand it. I plan ahead and take shelter before a storm gets close. It's nothing to play with. If I can move to Arizona, I would. That's a pretty interesting story right there as well. And she says it's a true story. So yeah, a funny, quick question I would probably ask Miss Rebecca here is: are the storms worse in Texas, where she lived in Friona, or are they worse in the Arklatex? And that's something I would definitely want to ask a follow up question to that is. And the EF4 tornado is nothing to play with at all. EF4, I believe, is winds close to, not exceeding, but close to 200 miles per hour. I believe it's between 160 or 170 and 190 something. But that's extremely dangerous situation. That is a major tornado if it had a major tag to it, just like hurricanes did. But it's definitely a destructive tornado, and EF4 is for sure. So I'm glad you made it out of that alive. I'm glad your family made it out of that situation alive in 1995 there. And that's a pretty interesting story and a pretty scary story at that. The next story is from Mr. Derek Fisher. Derecho storms and winds, OMG, laid every tree down in my neighborhood. Straight line winds, no joke, CJ. Yes, that is it's definitely no joke to experience straight line winds for sure. We've seen a couple of derecho storms here in the Arklatex, and they look to be pretty common during these severe weather seasons in the spring season as well as in the fall season, which some of you may not know about. With the changing of seasons here, hot air and cold air makes storms pretty much start to swirl around, and that brings out tornadoes, and that's actually why we have technically a second severe weather season during the late fall months, actually from October, which actually we are about to enter the second fall season, second severe weather season of the year here, and it lasts all the way until the start of, I believe, the start of December here. We don't see much severe weather going through the winter season, but it is still definitely possible considering we are in the southern United States. And the last comment here on Facebook, somebody mentions the New Orleans floods of 1995. Now, they didn't give much description of the New Orleans floods of 1995 here, but I did do some research on that event, and may I say it's quite devastating. It's I believe, from what I've seen, it's comparable in some spots of New Orleans, possibly to the floods that Hurricane Katrina brought to New Orleans. But I wouldn't go out on a limb and say that for sure. But the rain totals that I found on a couple of websites was 10 to 20 inches of rainfall. Think of 10 to 20 inches of rain falling in your area, whether it's a low elevation, which is probably more, and higher elevations, around 10 to 20 inches. 10 to 20 inches is probably up to near your kneecap. So you're walking through water that's up to your kneecap, possibly even higher than that in those areas that may have basements or that are in lower elevations, as mentioned before. So props to you for surviving that. And now you have a story to tell about the New Orleans floods of 1995. It seems like it's a pretty big and infamous weather event associated with all the other stuff that New Orleans has been through. Since they are at lower elevations, they're more than likely prone to flooding, especially since they're along the Gulf Coast as well. So props to you for surviving that through that, and props to everyone that commented here for today, that shared their story of the craziest weather experience that they've had. I also want to look on my Instagram here. I've seen a couple people comment on Instagram that I've shared this exact post with on Instagram here. So I'm going to look through some of the comments. I believe I got 2 comments there. One of them said it had an earthquake the second day of school in 5th grade, and 4 days later we had a hurricane. Now I think I remember this because this was commented by one of my friends from high school. His name is Body Joy. Shout out to Body. But his in 5th grade, which is for me, well, I'm pretty young, so bear with me, y'all. In 5th grade was around 2011 to 2012 for me, and that's actually when Hurricane Sandy had moved through the northeastern United States and impacted the worst areas near New Jersey. But it brought some heavy rainfall to where I was and actually flooded out my basement. We had to live in a hotel for a couple days as I started off my 5th grade year. I believe it was 2011 was Hurricane Sandy, or 2012 that came when it came through. No. Yes, I believe it's more than likely 2011 when it came through. 2011 to 2012 year was I believe my 5th grade year. Yeah. Okay. All in all, it was definitely a scary sight to see my flooded basement flooded out, and also with the earthquake. And that earthquake that happened at when he was talking about that I actually remember, I was in a car right next to the at the time the Commander Stadium. They were formerly known as the Redskins, but I was right down the street from the Commander Stadium, and all I saw was it was me, my mom, and my brother in the car. Me and my brother were in the back seat, and all of a sudden we just felt the car start to shake back and forth, back and forth. My mom looked back in the back seat of the car, and she was like, "Are y'all jumping around back there or not? Like, what are y'all doing?" And we both was looking like, "We're not jumping around. What is going on?" And she was like, "Oh, this is an earthquake. This might be an earthquake. Y'all just remain calm. Just remain calm." The car just shifting back and forth. I believe it wasn't a major earthquake. I believe it was only around a 3.1 or 3.3. So it was still an earthquake, but it wasn't a major earthquake at all. Luckily, we weren't in any buildings or anything, and no major damage was reported out there. So that is definitely good on that part. There was also another comment out there from the Instagram chat, that a comment section. The tornado I experienced with you. This is actually my girlfriend that commented here. She came down in May, and we actually had a tornado warning in the middle of Shreveport for the Shreveport-Bossier area, where the circulation was heading towards the southern portions of Shreveport, and I pretty much stay in the northern portions of Shreveport. So it passed right by us, but it was heavy winds going back and forth, and I think that was the first tornado warning that she's ever been in. And I was just like, you know what, stay calm, just look outside, it's the winds are blowing extremely fast, and it's actually fascinating. I tried to show her the fascinating side of it so that she would be a little less scared of what was going on out there around the region. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for today, and I have to wrap up the episode. They're letting me know I have to wrap up the episode now, so I wish I had more time with you guys for today, but I was glad to share these different stories that you guys had commented. Thank you guys so much for commenting on everything. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day here. The First Alert Weather Breakdown will be back at 10:30 a.m. tomorrow on our Thursday at 10:30 a.m. As mentioned before, meteorologist Evan Thomason will be back on the podcast by then, and I will more than likely see you guys next week, either on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. But make sure to stay weather aware. We could see some rain chances for today, but temperatures remain above the average. Not much rain is expected through the next 7 days ahead, and not actually for today for rain chances. We may see them on Thursday or Friday of this the rest of this work week here. So make sure to stay weather aware, all in all, and anything in the tropics is not expected to affect us here. So make sure to stay weather aware once again. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. I very much enjoyed this episode for today, and I hope you guys enjoyed it too.